how much money you take from your probably largely working class following in order to push this, where you just look at like a headline from someone who's summed something up a certain way.
Yeah, can I work in your school, please?
And then idiots like this will agree with you, thinking that you're some kind of authority.
Why am I dancing with that trans person?
Do you want to know who this is? The kavernacle? Is it the kavernacle or the kavernacle? I have no idea. This is about how nobody will hire conservative politicians. And one of the chapters is no one should hire former Tory MPs. I don't know if we're just going mask off with like the cancel pig thing on the left. Happen to know this person is a leftist. You can't spell radiator without TRA. That is very true. That is very true. I'm radiator blind anyway. Hi, Mr. Clacker. I hope you're good. Yeah, so apparently no one will hire conservative politicians. Gonna guess Mr. Kavernacle here thinks that that's a good thing. And I'm wondering how many times we're going to mention the war in Gaza as a reason for that, which is totally down to conservative politicians and not historic conflict in that area spanning back like a century plus. But hey. Shouldn't prejudge. Let's see what our friend here is saying.
So it won't come as a shock to anyone that lots of people go into politics not because they want a better society or represent people in their local area. They use it as a stepping stone to get corporate jobs.
Hoping we'll see justification for this.
Now, of course, this is very true in American politics. We see this all the time where politicians will just become like lobbyists, and it's like a revolving door. Lobbyists will become politicians, politicians will become lobbyists. There really isn't much of a difference between them. And then recently you saw like Kirsten Sinema is now working for the crypto industry after just trying to stop nearly every like little good thing, like little bit of incrementalism. Joe Biden.
My worry here is that we're going to be confusing correlation for causation here. But hey, let's see.
Was trying to do. And of course, you also might get politicians who just like the power as well, but on the side might have something going on, like Nancy Pelosi, who's just such an insanely good trader of stocks. Not that she has access to insider information, which makes her very good. No, she's just, you know, as a hobby on the side, she dabbles in the stock market. And you also see
left-wing politicians do this too. That would be my guess, yeah. To be fair, he's saying politician to corpo. He's not saying conservative politician to corpo. But hey, let's see. Like I said, looking for evidence of more than just correlation and thus causation, which is not how it works, you know?
This in UK politics, of course, you see former politicians become corporate execs like Nick Clegg, who was the Deputy Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Democrats, who has worked at Facebook or Meta for a long time, only resigning recently, maybe because of the direction of the company, or maybe just took a big payday and left to make way for a former Republican politician, because that's what he ended up doing. And there is a difference between UK and US politics in terms of the politician to corporate exec pipeline. I would say the UK relies on...
There's always got to be a pipeline, hasn't it? Like, you see more than one person doing one thing and then doing another thing. It's always a pipeline. When are we going to get the left-wing politics commentator to sexual deviant pipeline? I think that's the pipeline I'm really interested in, you know what I mean?
More the class solidarity of the upper class, and lots of the MPs who get cushy jobs after they leave politics are normally pretty well connected, and that's because most of our politicians go to the exact same school, especially Tory politicians. They go to Eton, then they go to either Oxford or Cambridge, but even a lot of Labour MPs do this as did, and that's because
not inside information when you're the one making the rules. The market has to play by. Yeah, I guess.
Who get cushy jobs after they leave politics are normally pretty well connected.
Like, politicians are going to be well connected just for the fact that they're politicians. Like, They're like, they're in there, you know what I mean? Like, they have to deal with all different kinds of people. Like, networking is something that's going to come naturally, I would have thought, to a certain extent. Like, does it have to be because they went to certain schools? Not every politician even did go to one of those schools.
And that's because most of our politicians go to the exact same school, especially Tory politicians. They go to Eton, then they go to either Oxford or Cambridge, but even a lot of Labour MPs do this as well. So it creates this big bubble in London where you can just jump out of politics and go get a corporate job. But what happens if...
I don't know, man. What else are they supposed to do? You stop being a politician, yeah, you're probably going to get a job somewhere else. This is what I mean. We need more than, like, this happens, you know what I mean?
If you're a Tory MP who destroys the country, votes for every horrific thing that puts more people in poverty and actually, like, ends...
Wow, amazing. Amazing analysis. Amazing analysis already.
...lives because of this destitution, what happens if you are booted out of office in the summer...
Kemi Badenoch didn't go to Eton. Yeah, there's probably loads of examples. What I find is a lot of these talking heads, they love these generalizations. They love to just, it's like you have to take a lot of stuff as read, like Tory bad. You have to just take that as read instead of looking for reasons why they're bad, you know what I mean? And maybe I'm supposed to watch a whole bunch of his videos to get caught up on that, but I have not, so I don't know. It seems a bit, it doesn't seem very approachable in that respect, you know what I mean?
...country votes for every horrific thing that happens if you're a Tory MP who destroys the country, votes for every horrific thing that puts more people in poverty and actually, like, ends lives because of this destitution. What happens if you are booted out of office in...
I mean, that's going to happen regardless. You're never going to get 0% poverty. There's always going to be actions taken by whoever's in government. There's probably going to f someone over. Isn't that just how it is?
The summer 2024 election, and you aren't well connected. You might have been a school teacher before you became a politician, so you're just...
This here, Jonathan Gollis, says he cannot get a job now. He's lost his seat, adding that he feels being a Conservative is something that is treated with disdain. I mean, it is to an extent, but being on the left is going to be treated by disdain by plenty of people on the other side, you know?
Just applying for, like, teaching roles or things to do with certain education policy, and you're just not even getting any interviews. Of course,
Labour hasn't done shit to overturn the bad things. To be fair, this person wouldn't be a Labour supporter either. He's like an actual, like, well, I say an actual leftist. I don't know of him well enough to know whether that's even the case, because a lot of his new left stuff I don't really consider leftism, but hey.
Of course, for some of you, your heart might bleed for the former Tory politicians who weren't privileged enough to walk into a corporate job after their stint in Parliament. We, of course, feel so bad that the people who ruined this country cannot gain employment, cannot go back to being a teacher, and it's just so unfair that no one wants to work with these people. Surely we should even start, like, GoFundMes for, like, funding the...
This guy doesn't mean any of this, just to be clear.
...lives of these Tory politicians because they just can't get jobs. That is one thing about the UK that I want to zone in on a little bit as well. A lot of people like becoming politicians because of the freebies. We recently had a scandal with the Labour government taking, like, free Taylor Swift tickets.
Is that why they like becoming politicians, or is it a perk of the job? That's not the same thing. Standard Corbynite. Well, yeah. So he'll probably hate what Labour is right now anyway. So I've known lots of people that are like that, and they all fucking hate Keir Starmer. They all fucking hate Labour. So I doubt that he's doing the partisan thing in that kind of way, like the Labour versus Conservative kind of way.
And shit like that, because they're so easily bought. And an MP salary...
This is the kavernacle talking about how no one will hire Conservative politicians.
While better than most of the country, isn't, like, insane, but you do get the benefit thrown in on a little bit as well. A lot of people like becoming politicians because of the freebies. We recently had a scandal with the Labour government taking, like, free Taylor Swift tickets and shit like that, because they're so...
Yeah, like, that's not why they're a politician, though, is it? Like, it's a perk of the job. You'll definitely get people that will take advantage of shit that, you know, well, I don't know the circumstances on how they got those Taylor Swift tickets. So, like, I don't know, man.
Easily bought. And an MP salary, while better than most of the country, isn't, like, insane.
Like, he says easily bought. Sorry, I keep pausing. There's always so much to unpack, you know what I mean? Like, they got Taylor Swift tickets, and then what happened after? Did they get them from a specific person who wanted a specific policy? Like, you're not really showing any of this. I mean, Number 10 denies Swift tickets were a thank you to Starmer. Denied that they received free Taylor Swift tickets as a thank you for the singer getting police or escort to her concerts at Wembley. I don't know, man. Like, he arranged an escort and then got free tickets for it. Like, is that really so bad? I don't know what he's trying to say here. Let's get it again.
So that is one thing about the UK that I want to zone in on a little bit as well. A lot of people like becoming politicians because of the freebies. We recently had a scandal with the Labour government taking like...
So people want to be politicians for freebies, and his example is Keir Starmer getting free Taylor Swift tickets after the London Met was escorting her to a gig. Like, what? They get front row NBA tickets and such all the time as gifts. It's only news when it's Taylor Swift. Yeah, I'm trying to get what point he's making, because I don't want to just like sit here and blankly disagree with everything someone's saying for fucking clicks or whatever. Shouldn't really be about that, but he has to actually say something worth listening to.
Like free Taylor Swift tickets and shit like that, because they're so easily bought.
Because they're so easily bought. Like, he's bought, that's why he possibly arranged an escort for Taylor Swift. If you're going to say that someone's bought because they got this free gift, the inference is that they got this free gift and implemented some kind of policy that pandered to that person giving the gift. But that's really not, like, arranging a fucking, like, I don't get it, man. Like, this isn't a good example. Yeah, there probably are people that get given incentives to enact certain kinds of policies. It just doesn't make any sense. And, like, what, did Keir Starmer get into government for the fucking Taylor Swift fucking tickets? Was that all he was doing this whole time? I mean, I guess, I don't know. I think this is a silly point, to be honest. Hey, I don't know. I'm sure one of his fans can tell me I'm completely wrong and then not explain why in the comments if I post this as a video.
And an MP salary, while better than most of the country...
Because then he moves on. Like, am I wrong? A decent escort is going to cost as much as the tickets. Hey, maybe. It's just silly. Starmer is more brought by BlackRock, but Kavernacle doesn't know enough to mention that. I mean, I don't know if that's true because I haven't looked at it specifically, but you'd think someone like this, he's a politics commentator. He should be abreast of all of that shit. And if he's like a Corbynite or a socialist or whatever, you would have thought he'd be looking for any excuse to put the boot in Starmer. And he goes for Taylor Swift tickets? Nuts. Anyway, let's keep going. I don't want to sit on this point forever. I think it's silly what he's saying. Someone can correct me. Let's keep going.
Isn't like insane, but you do get the benefits of like cheap, you know, food at Parliament in a good restaurant, which can then be subsidised. You then get expenses where you can subsidise where you live in London if you are an MP.
Also, it's worth mentioning, there's plenty of different professions out there where you can get things like food charged back on VAT. I used to work in Wetherspoons. You'd get people asking for like VAT receipts. It's because they want to claim that money back that they've spent on that food. It's not at all unique to politicians by a long shot. Oh, hi, Jeremy Hughes review. Yep, Kavernacle. I've known who this guy is for a while. Is it Kavernacle or Kavernacle? I'm going to keep saying it wrong, whichever way. Hi, Hazard Thornbush. Hope you're good. Have I missed anyone? Oh, hi, Pozo as well.
From other places in the country, and I want to talk about all of this today in regards to the Tory MPs who can't get jobs anymore, because ultimately I just find it funny. So all of that coming up for you today.
Of course he does. If it was, like, let's say the Green Party was in charge for 5 years and things didn't go amazingly well, would this guy be, like, finding it funny if those Green Party MPs would then not be able to get jobs? Like, I don't think he would somehow. It's feeling a bit partisan, but I don't know. Let's see. Hi, Meat Vessel. Hi, tooling around.
Today, please like the video. Check me out on social media. Check out my gaming Instagram. Check out my personal Instagram and travel Instagram. Check
gaming Instagram. I've never heard of someone having a gaming Instagram before. Anyway,
check me out on Blue Sky. That is my main social media at the moment. And also, if you want to support the channel, please support me on Patreon or YouTube membership.
$5.59 a month. Wow. Maybe I should get a fucking Patreon. I don't know. Still working on the whole monetization thing. Not particularly hard, to be fair. Okay, I will at least compliment him in that there's a £1 tier. Some of these start at like almost a fiver. Doesn't say, oh my god, it says in the video how much, but then it doesn't say on here. What I often find with these leftist types is that they don't say how much money they're getting on Patreon. And then what they might do, if they're, for example, Abigail Thorne, is make out that they're not as well off as they actually are. They might do things like, during COVID, say that they're going on rent strike when they literally earn more than their fucking landlord does. Stuff like that. I don't know who all these people are meant to be. Like, Patrick Bateman? Like, what has this got to do with what? I don't know. I guess he's trying to make this seem as manly as possible, but this is, I don't know how manly I'm finding this.
Bishops. So, yeah, this article was going viral, and I'm going to save this for...
All right, so we've also got out-of-work Tory MPs experiencing trauma after losing their seats.
A little bit later about Tory MPs who just can't get jobs. But before we go on to that...
He can barely keep the smile off his face, by the way. Oh, hi, TTT. I love how all these humanist leftists who lack a drop of empathy towards people of different political views than them. Yeah, it kind of seems that way. I'm still watching, so... Oh, hi, Sus as well. I'm still watching, so I guess we'll see. Trying to do the whole good faith thing. This is what happens. I start the stream out, and I'm all good faith and nice and stuff, and then that evaporates by, like, half an hour in, usually. Hope you're good. The tier of abusers, Jesus.
I just want to talk about how being an MP in this country is actually a pretty decent job, especially considering a lot of them have other jobs, like Nigel Farage, and a lot of them...
I'm pretty sure you would never shame, like, a left-wing person or a working-class person for having two jobs. And, like, I don't know. It depends on the criticism you're making, I guess. One could argue if you voted someone into office, then they should probably concentrate on that, but I don't know. I should do a sponsorship for those posh titles, like buy yourself a lordship. Hey, maybe.
don't actually do that job very well because there isn't like a massive requirement to show up every day, show up for your constituents in your home office, in your district, or even show up to vote on stuff in Parliament. So just going through like the benefits of being...
Is that what makes you good or bad at your job? I'm not sure.
Being an MP in this country, the basic annual salary for an MP in April 2024 is £91,346. MPs also receive expenses to cover the cost.
By the way, I'd say this is quite high, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I've never come anywhere near this kind of fucking salary. I think the highest I had was about 23k or something. So.
Cost of running an office, employing staff, having somewhere to live in London or their constituency, and travelling between Parliament and their constituency. There have been loads of scandals over the years about MPs using these expenses for like pretty dodgy stuff that they don't need, but that is obviously still rife in Parliament. People using these expenses on top of this salary, which is, you know, better than most of the country's salary, to basically live a life of luxury at...
Again, plenty of professions out there where you can claim all sorts of things off of the government. Yeah, there's definitely things about, like, expensive scandals and stuff. There's definitely things that people claim on the thing that they probably shouldn't. But hey, I don't know.
The cost of the taxpayer. Now, one thing that is pretty insane is that...
And also, I mean, if we're going to complain about MPs using this, that, or the other, and that being charged back to the taxpayer, you're then kind of legitimizing all kinds of other arguments for things that are on the taxpayer that perhaps shouldn't be. But hey, there's no such number as free, 13, or 6th. That is true.
There are several like restaurants and cafes in the House of Commons itself, and they serve really cheap food, which is meant to be really good. And it's cheap because it is subsidised by the taxpayer, and they can also claim it on expenses. So how's that for...
I've already made my point about this several times.
Double dipping in the public funds. So the standard right now...
Does that mean you're gonna level that criticism at any other job where you can claim food from the government?
A couple of years ago. This was in response to a petition just calling on this subsidy to end, basically. So subsidising meals in the House of Commons for politicians and parliamentary pass holders is thought to cost the taxpayer up to £7 million a year, which is just so insane.
Well, cost the taxpayer? I mean, UK tax in general. It's not like any one taxpayer. It's a bit of an odd wording here.
None of us get our lunch subsidised.
Well, you're in the wrong job then, mate. Like, I don't know.
While those in Westminster can take advantage of a publicly funded meal discounts, the campaign pointed out that 3 million Brits relied on food banks last year alone. So actually on the Parliament website, you can find the menus of some of these places just to show you like how subsidised these meals are. For again, people who make £91,000.
That's not going to show you how subsidised it is. It's going to show you what kind of food it is. So you can make a guess that it might be quite heavily subsidised. But unless they're giving the costs of all the things they're using, then you really don't know how subsidised they are.
A year to be an MP, and they can claim expenses on multiple things, including food. At the members' dining room, starters, you have soup of the day, $2.70, rosemary, salt-baked squash, panna cotta with almond feta, beer, onion ketchup and parsnip crisps.
Almond feta, beer and onion ketchup and parsnip crisps. I mean, this doesn't have to be particularly expensive to make, necessarily.
Very fancy, $4.10.
Fancy, but is that expensive to make? Listen, I know a decent amount about food. I can cook pretty well myself.
Squash, panna cotta with almond feta, beer, onion ketchup and parsnip crisps. Very fancy, $4.10. Traditional prawn.
So, I mean, look at any of those ingredients like squash, rosemary, almonds, feta, beer, onions, ketchup, parsnips. Are any of those particularly expensive?
Cocktail with gem lettuce and brown bread and butter.
Wait, we've skipped a whole bunch. I guess he couldn't make much of a point with these. Like, goat's cheese, I'd argue might be one of the more expensive ones here. I don't know. Granny Smith apple, micro celery, beetroots, honey, thyme, balsamic, pressed duck leg, caper terrine, valeriac, blah, blah, blah. Mackerel is not an expensive fish at all. Tomato ceviche, elderflower gel. What the fuck is elderflower gel? Listen. Irrespective of what the actual point is here, I when you start seeing like gel on like menus, that's when I start being like, I think this is erring on pretentious. But does that mean that it's expensive? Like, how much is this actually being subsidized? It actually still looks somewhat expensive. It's not restaurant prices. And these are starters, by the way. Like, soup of the day might be literally just some vegetables blitzed up with some salt and hot water. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. Traditional prawn cocktail. Wow. Wow. Much expensive, very wow. Sounds fancy, but that doesn't mean expensive to make. Exactly. There we go. Exactly.
£3.25. Then we get to the mains. So a
ribeye steak, hand-cut chips, tomato mushroom. So obviously steak is quite expensive. But I mean, I don't know. This it's about the price of like a Wetherspoon steak back in the day, back when I used to work there anyway. I've got salmon, courgette, potatoes, black olive crumb, chive cream sauce. None of this is like crazy. You can say that it's fancy and that there's probably quite a lot done to it. Maybe a decent amount of labor going into that. You're paying 4 times the price at the Ivy for that. Yeah, it probably makes sense. I mean, it's an expensive place now. Pork belly. I cook pork belly all the time. Do you know how much I earn? About fucking $300 a fucking month. Pancetta, root vegetables, spelt. I think, I'm not sure. Spelt flour. Is that something to do with that? Kale, swede. Like, I don't know. You can do a lot with cheap ingredients. You know what I mean?
A char-grilled ribeye steak with hand-cut chips, tomato, mushroom, and béarnaise sauce, only £9.19. And do you think this is like some cheap Wetherspoons steak, or do you think this?
Imagine Wetherspoon. Listen, it's subsidized. Yeah, it's gonna be a bit cheaper. But like, I don't know. You're kind of getting what you said you're getting here.
Steak is pretty good for £9. Claim expenses on that as well. And if you go down the list, most of these are for under a tenner. And you can get vegetables or potatoes of the day for $1.60
Well, how'd you have to think? Hope you're good.
on the side. And all the desserts are basically under £3 as well.
What's a steakler? I'm guessing a small steak. Desserts. Got a cake. You can make cake for very little. Fig, cream cheese, and orange mess. Throwing a few ingredients together, smashing them up. Pork belly used to be cheap as chips still. Jamie Oliver started putting it on TV. It's still decently cheap. Like, I cook with pork belly a lot because it's good. creme caramel, ice creams. Like, yeah, it's cheaper than like restaurant prices. It's not a restaurant in for profit. Yeah, true. Gonna need some money to keep stop trying to make Steaklet happy. This is not my word. I'm just I'm just interpreting it. Why is this guy so mad at the menu again? Because politicians get a high salary, which I agree is very high. They are running the country, which is the counter to that, I guess. It's a lot of responsibility compared to someone who's just stacking shelves. Pork belly used to be the cheapest part of a pig. What, even more than like snouts and like trotters and stuff. It probably used to be like way cheaper, but it's not terrible. Yeah, so this is the this is the subsidized restaurant you can get into as a politician, which isn't presumably serving the public, so isn't trying to make a profit the same way that a business would. And it's subsidized as well. Most of the ingredients we're mentioning, he keeps saying it sounds fancy. I don't think he knows anything about food, but hey.
So you can eat a pretty decent meal.
I did advocate for Steaklet, and I will do it again. I'm going to use the word Steaklet every half an hour like clockwork, just to annoy you, and no other reason.
For £15, because the taxpayer is subsidising the canteen. Obviously, when you compare that to how much shit the average British person has to eat because of poverty, how many people have to...
How much shit the average British person has to eat because of poverty? I mean, I don't know, man. I feel like... I mean, I have certain advantages myself, but this is all I do. I don't make very much money doing this. Like, my partner works in a convenience store. Doesn't make a huge amount of money, a lot more than I do, but not a huge amount. You can still eat good food. I find it very difficult. People will say, I watched something about like fat acceptance in America, and people saying about how, like, you know, unhealthy food is all some people can get hold of and stuff like that. That really isn't necessarily the case in the UK. And I guess it depends where you are. It depends what amenities are available to you. But I don't know. I can buy like meat and vegetables and like carbs and condiments to make sauces and like make some pretty decent food that's nutritious enough on a pretty tight budget. I'm really not sure the average British person isn't suffering from poverty. That is true.
Obviously, when you compare that to how much shit the average British person has to eat because...
Like, what does this mean? You need to explain this. Listen, I'm someone who actually knows something about food. I've worked in like kitchens before. I've worked in a Wetherspoon kitchen. Okay. I cook basically every single day. I went out earlier to buy some food so I could plan out some meals. And like, you know, if you have access to a decently sized supermarket, you can get okay food. Like, I don't know.
Because of poverty, how many people have to use food banks all the time, how much these massive corporate supermarkets who are in bed with the government, how much they raise their prices
Does he explain any of this?
All the time. It feels like every time I go to the shops, everything I buy is at least another 10p more expensive for like a single item. And just
you know what you could do if you're feeling like that? Why not like take some pictures, actually show it, instead of just sounding off? Because that makes me think that you're exaggerating. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like when someone puts themselves out there as a specific, like, political commentator, I expect a bit more from them than this kind of shit. It's the same with Vorsh. Feels a lot of the time like he just makes stuff up and then hides behind, like, a thin layer of irony. Like, I expect a bit more. You should be showing this kind of stuff. Instead, it just kind of seems like you're propagandizing. Yeah, sanctions on Israel. He's one of those.
Think about how many of these MPs in Parliament actually come from wealth themselves and don't need us to subsidise their living expenses, let alone subsidise a very fancy and expensive lunch. And again,
very fancy and expensive lunch. I don't think we've shown that it's fancy and expensive. You could argue fancy because, like, maybe there's some work that goes into this kind of stuff. But I mean, usually kitchens kind of... When you're running a kitchen that caters to large amounts of people every single day. One question, has anyone understood what is his point? I guess he's saying politicians shouldn't have their food subsidized. I don't know, you could make a case for it, but what he's trying to say is they get all this like fancy food and stuff. I mean, this doesn't look cheap. But then if you were doing like restaurant prices for stuff like this, like if you times all of these by 2, you'd kind of be getting in the ballpark, you know what I mean? And a lot of this stuff is like, you probably could make some of this quite cheaply if you tried. And the other thing is, what I was trying to say, like, you can say that this is like fancy stuff. Like maybe you could say a lot of work goes into it. There's a lot of things you have to do. But most commercial kitchens and most kitchens that have an influx of people every single day, they use ingredients a certain way. They'll make batches of things. They'll do as much as they can to make it efficient. They'll use ingredients for multiple different dishes and stuff like that. So it's not as crazy as he thinks. I don't know. And if it's not a normal for profit business, then yeah, that's probably going to bring the price down by itself.
Lunch. And again, you can go onto the website, you can view these menus. Parliament actually come from wealth themselves and don't need us to subsidize their living.
Because there's parts that I'd probably agree with. Like if you earn 90k a year, do you really need like your food covering? I'm not sure, to be honest. But then the other thing is, this is in London, is it not? Like, London is practically like a different world from what I can see. I used to work in a letting agent. Like, let's say that you rent a 2-bedroom house in the northeast. You can rent a place like that for about 500 quid. You go to London, it's like 4 times that. It's a very different place, is London. I don't know if this guy lives there or what. I've never lived there. But it's a very different experience.
Expenses.
And he's just using the menu. Like, we're using the menu. Do you know what kind of ingredients they're using? Like, how much do each ingredients cost? You need a breakdown of, like, the expenses to really make a decent point on this, and he's not doing so at all.
Let alone subsidize a very fancy and expensive lunch. And again,
And of course, the same point that I've already made comes back. There are lots of jobs where you can subsidize, you can have your food subsidized. Like I said, worked in Wetherspoons. You get people asking for VAT receipts. It's because they're going to claim that back. Not all of those people are politicians. London is hellish expensive. Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, I used to look after like London when I was a letting agent. The one advantage really was that because the rents were so high, it was much easier to like fund like maintenance works in people's houses, and that was about it. And like when your rent is less, that means that if something goes wrong, it might be more difficult for the landlord to pay for it because he's not taking as much money from you. So, hey, I don't know.
You can go onto the website, you can view these menus. There are other ones as well. So you can very much see how a lot of
Yeah, so we're using menus. That's not good evidence for what you're saying.
MPs get used to the luxury, get used to the taxpayers subsidising their living costs. And you can see how for a lot of them, it would be very hard once that is taken away, especially considering all they had to do.
Or seasonal veg, it'll be cheap. Most likely, yeah. And like I said, kitchens have ways of like making things go as far as they can. Like you don't really want to waste loads of shit because that's your profits. If you're buying loads of different weird ingredients and they're not using half of them and you're chucking them away, you might as well basically be taking your money and chucking that away. Like this guy presumably does not know how like kitchens work.
To do was like sell their soul to the devil to get this cushy job in the first place.
Sound bites, boring.
So I saved this a couple of weeks ago because it made me laugh at the pictures and the London Economic Post on Instagram about the out-of-work Tory MPs experiencing trauma after losing their seat. And there's one I want to focus on because he's probably like the most visible in terms of I always saw this guy saying crazy shit on the TV. Like he was on BBC all the time. He was on like GB News. He was on basically everything, right? And now he's out of a job as an MP, lost his seat at the last election, and he also cannot get re-employment even as a teacher these days. So the article is...
You'd think he'd have like any sympathy for his fellow human being, but hey.
On the Telegraph, and it was, I earned £575 in 6 months. The ex-Tory MPs who can't get a job.
He's like grinning. That's the... Jesus Christ, 575 in 6 months. I've earned more than that in 6 months. Doing this. Like, holy shit.
So no matter like what you're going for at the moment, with employment, with living costs, just be happy that some of the people who made your lives worse are also struggling as well.
Made your lives worse. What a bizarre way of putting it.
And I'm sure the irony is not lost on them that they created this environment that makes it so hard to get a job and makes everything so unaffordable.
They've created this environment. What is any of this? This is just sound bites for your dumbass fans. This isn't actual analysis by any length of the... any Any way you slice it, this is not real analysis, it's sound bites. Anyone can do this. And he's got like 6-figure subscribers, to be fair. I think his channel's been around a decent while. Do you guys have supercuts? What supercuts? I'm not sure. Let's have a quick look. 7 years. I mean, that's okay numbers for like 7 years. Complaining about Luis Suarez being on the cover of PES 2018 because he bit someone, presumably. Didn't like Trump. I guess he's stayed true or something. And like he's still kind of doing well, to be fair. Like the biggest things, or this is drama frogging, to be fair. This is a drama frog video. Racism against Indians. John Tron's insanely racist debate with Destiny 4 years later. This guy hates Destiny, that's the worst thing. I don't know who he'd be siding with. Complaining about backlash. I'm going to guess, listen, I'm not going to watch this to find out. I'm going to guess a lot of ignoring people making actual points, whatever's going on. I mean, I didn't really look into I know like Sam Hyde like weighed in against Elon Musk about Indian people. I don't know. There's like long-standing Indian populations in this country. I can't say that I have any problem with them myself. But hey.
That even they are struggling, people with privilege and connections. So Sir Charles Walker, the former MP for Broxbourne, Hertfordshire, said, "I'm beginning to talk to more and more colleagues who are in career distress, who are simply just not getting interviews."
I mean, you think it's okay that these people should just like sit around and do nothing and like, think about what they've done? I mean, here's what I'd like to ask this guy. Like, have you ever ran a country? Is it as easy as you're making it out? Oh, they just made bad decisions and stuff. Like, I don't think this guy has a clue on how this shit works, quite honestly.
I wonder why people don't want to work with you. Sir Charles, who spent nearly 2 decades in Parliament,
This is cancel pig shit, by the way.
is among those struggling to find work and says he has made just £500 in the past 6 months. £500 on election night for a slot on ITV that was cancelled, but they very sweetly paid me, and £75 for appearing on Radio 4's Broadcasting House. I'm very lucky. I'm in my later years. I have some financial resources I can fall back on. I took my House of Commons pension early, but it's not going to last forever. It is like an out-of-body experience to go from a 12-year select committee chair, 4 years on the board of the House of Commons Commission, and overseeing budgets of hundreds of millions and staff of thousands, to not having a lot to do every day. Charles going on to say, "I'm talking to colleagues in their 30s who are becoming terribly depressed, and these are really..."
Laughing. People in their 30s. Like, fucking hell. There's a lot of us in our 30s working shitty fucking jobs that we can't seem to get out of either. He's a commie, so obviously he wants people to sit around and do nothing. I thought communism was more about working people to the bone for like almost nothing, but hey, I don't know. I'm sounding off. I'm not. I don't know very much about that shit.
Really good people who could make a difference in most organisations and would work hard to prove themselves. They just need a chance, and they've really held senior positions. I know former ministers are struggling to find work. Why might they be struggling? Because, obviously, you have been...
Because it's a difficult economy. Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of jobs around. I don't know. My partner's trying to find better work. I've been through periods of struggling to find things. It's not always the easiest thing in the world. But no, we're gonna shit on them because they were conservative politicians. Doesn't even know who these colleagues in their 30s are that this guy's talking about. And we don't really know the circumstances behind these supposed like decisions that these people made that have ruined the country and caused problems for other people. Any fucking government is gonna end up uplifting some people and causing problems for others. You know what I mean? And this guy has no idea what it's like running a country. Nor do I. But that's why I'm not laughing about the fact that some of them are like sitting around all day now they don't have a job and becoming depressed. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I just have enough empathy that I think people shouldn't be made fun of for that kind of shit, I guess.
Why might they be struggling?
Like, let's say that this idiot got cancelled tomorrow and then had to go and get a real job and then was finding it difficult to get a real job. Would I sit here and like laugh about it because he's a like leftoid, like talking head And I think that these people are causing more harm than good, because really all they're doing is reciting like sound bites, pushing like partisan shit, and appealing to people's like worst tendencies. Like, they wanted to get rid of anti-discrimination in the workplace. Like, they made 90K a year and never had a saving. What do you know what kind of life they're living? Do you know how many kids they have? Do you know anything about any of these people? No, of course you don't. Oh, we got a trans pride flag. I sold out the people I swore to serve. How? How exactly? And now they have the gall to hate me. Such injustice. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Why don't you run a fucking country and see how it works for you? This is what I mean. These people, like, what they do. Oh, hang on. I think there was one about the food. Maybe if they stopped eating avocado toast, blah, blah, blah. Wow, amazing. Amazing. It's fine when it's the other way around, I guess. I don't know. I find that I'm not wasting my money on dumb shit and spending it on food and bills and nothing else. I'm actually able to afford living. I'm lucky in some respects. I own my own house and stuff, but I don't know. These people are ridiculous. And this person, he's not actually providing political analysis. He's just judging people, shitting on people for the benefit of people that want to see people get shat on, instead of wanting to hear like good arguments for why leftism is best. You know what I mean?
Because, obviously, you have been in power since 2010 and only got kicked out in 2024. So first of all...
Well, I mean, that's not true of any one particular person. Any one particular MP is not the Conservative Party.
To be a Tory MP, you don't actually need to be that smart. You just have to do whatever the Prime Minister says.
Says the YouTuber.
And just vote the way he says. That's what Tories always do. But also, a lot of people hate you. A lot of people hate you because you've utterly destroyed the country. So when they see former Tory MP...
That's ridiculous.
On a CV, do you think they want to work with you? Do you think like 90% of the country want to work with you? Most of the country hates politicians, full stop.
Like, if Jeremy Corbyn had gotten in and things didn't really materially improve all that much for like working class people, like they kind of haven't been for a long time under the Tories, I will grant that, he wouldn't be saying this kind of shit. It'd be all, oh no, he hasn't got to it yet, like you have to trust him and stuff. It's partisan shit. I know it for a fact.
But when they see that you actually fucked us all over, yeah, I'm not surprised a lot of these people are struggling. So Chris Clarkson, who was an MP for Hayward and Middleton, says he is available immediately and I'm actively applying. And Dame Jackie Doyle-Price, an MP for 14 years, so around for the whole of the Tory disaster, recently shared a Telegraph article on how on a civil service jobs row.
And by the way, what exactly were any one of these people like responsible for? How do you know any of these weren't like a force for good? Maybe like mitigating some of this supposed harm that you keep alluding to, but never actually explain or express in any meaningful way. How do you know? How do you know that these are the people you should even be fucking laughing at? You know what I mean? It's much easier to just generalize, oh, Tory's bad, instead of understanding who any of these people are. But then if he tried to understand who any of these fucking people actually are, he wouldn't be making this kind of thing. And to me, it's like, if they make decisions that I disagree with, does that mean that I should laugh at them because they can't get jobs now? Fuck no. I'm not like that. I'm just not built that way.
Writing, age discrimination is alive and kicking in the job market. It is something that everyone experiences and yet is the protected characteristic that is talked about the least.
It's almost a parody of a bread tuber. To be honest, are there any good bread tubers? I think all of them are parody. I think all of them always were. And like, people get swept up in this shit because it makes them feel better. It makes them feel better to have someone to blame for their life not being very good. Because that's what people want. They want someone to blame.
All good wishes to everyone over 50. I think what's missing and what's adding to the difficulty to a lot of MPs looking for work is we've allowed MPs to be so diminished in terms of reputation that the honourable side of our work is going ignored, and the fact that we bring a diverse...
Well, he is ignoring the honourable side of their work. He is ignoring anything good that these people might have done. That's just true.
...of skills, Dame Jackie.
And he laughs there. He laughs at the part that he's deliberately ignoring.
Says, it does always amuse me when you hear MPs that don't live in the real world. Well, actually we do. And we all take that risk and we do it because it's a calling. You are a Tory MP. No one thinks...
Just going back to the point he's already made, which isn't a point at all. It's just other side bad. That's all you need to hear. Other side bad. Other side bad. You're not a human anymore because you were in a government that I've decided is responsible for this, that, and the other, which we haven't shown whatsoever.
that you have an honourable side to you. Like, what good did you do for this country? You just fucking ruined it. Everyone feels this way. In the world that these people want to end.
Has every single thing that the Tories done only been a material harm to the country? I'd love to see him defend that. Jesus Christ.
Like the London-centred business world or political world, most people feel like this. Most people feel like the Tories have ruined the country. Even when you saw, running up to the election, them talking about like house prices and younger Tories talking about like what their issues are, right? They can't blame anyone else but you. You were in power for 14 years, so every problem is going to be...
Can't blame anything else. Like, let's ignore the impact that things like COVID had on the country and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of things you can blame. There's been like recessions. There's been COVID. Like, you can't just say, oh, the government is responsible for every single thing that happens. It doesn't work that way. It's the same as people that blame like Brexit for everything. I wasn't a Brexit voter myself. I didn't really see the point, and I still don't, to be honest. But like, it's very difficult to examine what potential harm it's like caused, because like COVID happened right after. You know what I mean? It's just nuts. They legalized gay marriage. Okay, yeah, there we go. Like, crazy. It's a very shallow view of how society works. Yes, true. And I feel like a lot of people, they want it reinforced to them that their shallow and unintelligent analysis is good, actually. And that's what people like this are here for.
To be blamed on the Tory party for good reason. And yeah, it's not...
Such as?
Age discrimination, because...
Oh, new sentence. Okay. For good reason, we can blame literally everything on the Tories. Like, yeah, they were running the country. But, like, even if you're going to blame them for things, like, wouldn't you find, like, specific policies and, like, show it? Like, maybe he's done this before, but that makes this content, like, rather... is a difficult, like, in point, because you have to already agree with a bunch of stuff that maybe he's done in other videos, maybe he hasn't. But, like, I don't know, man. If it's a standalone video, shouldn't you kind of show a little bit of it every time just to make sure that you're like actually backing up your points, and so that anyone coming in later on, like myself, isn't just going to be like, well, you haven't shown any of this.
As I'm sure if you had a distinguished career as someone working in like law or some shit like that, or even working in politics in another way and weren't front and center as a Tory MP, I'm pretty sure you'd get a job in the civil service, right?
How do you know? How do you know what individual challenges any one person is going to have when trying to find employment? Are you for real? Tory austerity policies ruined my life for many years, so I have reasons to hate them, but this guy is a douchebag. Yeah, the thing is, at least like express some of them. I'm not a fan of the Tories. I saw like the cost of living going up and up and up, and it sucked, you know what I mean? I was able to keep myself afloat, but at the same time, it's just so shallow.
Right? I don't think it's age discrimination. It's people don't want to work with a conservative politician. So this is the guy I want to focus on, and I got his voting record.
Okay, based on nothing. This is like Hassan tier, like shit. Like, just based on vibes. Oh, it's just this. It's like, he just wants everyone listening to hate the Tories as much as possible, and is too lazy to even give like reasons for it. How often does this guy upload, by the way? And like, yeah, the austerity things are like one thing, but like, that's not even all there is to consider. Like, how often does this guy like upload? Like every few days. Your content should just be a lot better than it is. Every few days you upload like this much. You have a Patreon, you get like $500 something every month. Presumably you get your ad revenue and stuff like that. You might work a job on the side. Like, I don't know. I expect just so much better. Covering internet culture and politics. Degree in history and masters in international relations. Oh my God. So fucking glad. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he does work in that kind of area. Yikes.
Screenshotted as well to share for you. So Jonathan Gullis was a teacher before he became an MP. He has said he cannot get a job now he's lost his seat, which has a knock-on effect on his wife and 2 children, aged 4 and 2. I've applied to a few jobs and sadly not even had an interview yet. So actually, I think the days when being an ex-MP was something that was wanted or desired are no longer, as I think we're now seen as a problem. So that's a challenge. Asked if he thought it was due to his politics, he said, "When I left the profession to enter Parliament, I felt being a Conservative was something that was treated with disdain. Post-Parliament, he added he could not work in education because there are too many activists in the classroom. As of January, he's still looking for a full-time role. It's a competitive market where I will be up against many of my former colleagues and former special advisors.
What's bizarre is I'm pretty sure teaching has a decently high like turnover rate, but hey.
Of whom will have expertise in certain fields and some of whom have come from the corporate world. So conservatives being like utter hypocrites will never cease to amaze me. Schools are something that
Reads the thing. Okay, massive generalization. Brilliant.
the Tories targeted the most, right? So he's complaining about activists in the classroom.
Schools targeted by the Tories. I mean, maybe, like, I can believe the school system is biased against Tories. Yeah, for sure, probably. But like, should we be biased against people for reasons like that? I don't know if that's fair. Can we not treat people like people? Like, being in government probably isn't as easy as it looks. You do have to make decisions that balance all kinds of things, like making sure you don't fuck over any one group, making sure the budget isn't astronomical, and that you're not putting yourself into mountains of debt. You know what I mean? For a guy with a degree in history, he has problems with understanding sources from what I've seen in his videos. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. You get some of these channels where they made an effort, like earlier on in their career, but then they just become bloated and lazy and just, they know that they can just spit out bullshit talking points and they'll have all of their weird culty little audiences fucking snapping to attention. Oh my God, you know what I mean?
I know a lot of teachers in my real life. A lot of my friends became teachers. I wouldn't say all of them are like the most political people, but they all really hate the Tories, and they hate the Tories because of all the cuts they did.
Like, people don't like the Tories and stuff, but like, there's a difference between not liking the Tories and laughing at specific Tory MPs who, you know, their circumstances, like, you really don't know anything about because they can't get a job. If it was anyone else, you wouldn't be doing that.
Did to education, they're not political activists going to like Labour rallies or like going to protest against the government. Most of them probably have never done that, but they all
That's not just what an activist is, especially these days.
know the Tory government targeted education and cut it. So if you're a former...
They cut education. Did they target it? Don't know about that, Chief. They cut a lot of things. But like, part of government shit is making cuts to things. You either cut things or you increase taxes. And increasing taxes is also going to increase the cost of living. It's also going to have an effect on people, especially lower down in the chain. People who perhaps are making enough to survive, but are struggling a little bit. Adding on tax to those people, potentially making that worse. Or you could tax the rich, and then they might just fuck off and leave the country, and then you're getting even less money now. You know what I mean? It's a delicate balance, and it's not easy. And this guy is just looking at the end result and judging purely based on that. And then like looking at a menu and not even understanding, like, this is dire. This is a terrible video.
A Tory MP trying to get a teaching job. Yeah, most teachers don't want to know because they know they can look up your record and be like, well, this guy fucked us over as well.
This guy fucked us over. It's just more complicated than that. If those people are stupid enough that that's what their attitude is, if these people lack empathy in that way, they shouldn't be fucking teachers themselves, quite frankly.
So it's not political activists. And take some fucking accountability. That's what you Tories believe in. That's what you Conservatives believe in. Take some accountability for your actions. People don't fucking like you and they don't want you at their place of employment because you did stuff that hurt them in many, many ways, and especially if you're a teacher. So on this note,
I think there's something quite toxic about taking government policy personally. That's extremely toxic, in my opinion.
because this is one of the more unhinged MPs, and that's another point to it, he wasn't like even your run-of-the-mill, boring Tory MP. He was always on TV saying insane shit. But anyway, let's
saying insane shit doesn't show anything. Like, oh nice, we've got a voting record, amazing.
Let's leave that to one side. So let's have a look. On They Work For You, Jonathan Gullis, voting summary.
Jonathan Gullis, let's see what insane shit he's saying. I mean, like I said, I'm not right-wing, I'm not a Tory, like... But if you're gonna shit on the Tories, like, I don't know, man. Like, code of conduct breach, failed to fully declare. Not great, obviously. Most controversial quotes. Wow, here we go. Amazing. Guarantee that 100% of teacher, 99% of politicians do not care about you. Stop caring about the Tories in the damn classroom and the damn HR department. Yeah, I'd agree with that. This is what I mean, like taking like government policy, like personally. I think we need to be very careful on doing that kind of shit. Calls for asylum seekers to be housed in tents. I mean, geez, the government were like flailing over this shit the entire time. I'm not gonna sit here and like. But then it's like, where are they putting them in the meantime? I don't even fucking know. Missing migrant children shouldn't have come here illegally. Not a great thing to say about children. People probably shouldn't go to a different country illegally, though. That is at least somewhat true. It's not a very smart thing to say, though. Well, they shouldn't have come here illegally. I mean, they're kids, you know, you gotta consider that. Has Kavernacle never said anything stupid? I happen to have heard quite a few stupid things he said. I mean, laughing at people getting depressed and stuff. This is the kind of thing that would mean, like, I would think twice about hiring you, quite frankly. Clashing with Gary Lineker. Gary Lineker likened the government's language used to launch a new asylum policy to 1930s Germany. How many different links do you have to click? Oh my god. Fucking, what is this? Indie 100. This is bullshit. Sort your shit out. I don't know much about this outlet. I think this was one of the ones that was like following Katie Hopkins' every move back in the day and not understanding why she just kept getting more and more famous. What did he say about the small boats thing? Compared it to Nazi Germany. Okay, here we go. Oh, is it literally like language that is not dissimilar used in Germany in the 30s? So what have we got here? A Hitler drank water argument. How amazing. Amazing job. I mean, it's not a good argument. So like if the BBC isn't happy with that, is that not okay? Like, because you get to hint at like ridiculous shit that suggests that people are like similar to Nazis. Like, falsely claimed that he called people Nazis. Yeah, but he did compare it. It's not as cut and dry. You know what I mean? Calling his constituents scrotes and scumbags. Calls for more CCTV. Yeah, I probably shouldn't be saying stuff like that. Striking teachers commies. Strikes are kind of associated with socialism, associated with trade unions, putting it slightly strongly. I don't agree with almost anything he's saying here, but does any of that mean that he shouldn't be allowed to get a job now? That we should treat him a certain way? I don't know, man. I think we need to keep some kind of humanity. Otherwise, how are you any better than the people that you're shitting on, frankly?
How he voted on welfare, benefits and pensions. Generally voted against a reduction in spending on welfare benefits. He could
Generally voted against a reduction in spending on welfare benefits. Isn't that a good thing to you? Some people are more than equal than others. Kavernacle probably. Yeah, I'd imagine. He also spends 4+ minutes of his communist channel advertising his Patreon and or sponsors. Yeah. A lot of these people are very, they take a lot of money. Are you familiar with Andrew Gold? He did an interview with Katie Hopkins recently, in fact. She's kind of nuts. Katie Hopkins has always seemed kind of nuts to me. She gained a lot of prominence saying some pretty wild shit, to be fair. And then left-wing media would constantly comment on it, constantly go on about every little thing she said, and then wondered why she kept getting platforms, why she kept gaining more and more prominence. It's because they were propping her up. Like, people would see these articles and agree with it and stuff, you know what I mean? At a certain point, just shut the fuck up about every move that Katie Hopkins made. And when they did, suddenly we weren't hearing about her every fucking day. Yeah, maybe I'll look at the Katie Hopkins thing sometime. Maybe she was a bridge too far for Andrew Gold, I don't know. But yeah, generally voted against a reduction of spending on welfare benefits. So what he was pro keeping the amount, not taking it away. That sounds like something that you would be down with. Like, why are you showing this?
could use that right now since he's unemployed, but that's a shame. So
Okay, just to make a stupid joke instead of what? What is this site, by the way? Oh, it's this, isn't it? It must be this.
reduction in spending on welfare benefits. He could use that right now since he's unemployed, but
Yes, like, this is like supposed to be good and stuff. Oh, I hope Oh, that's bizarre. I don't know why that would be happening. I know it's slash the Mary Chew, I think. If that makes it easier, just typing it in. I don't know. I hope you're good.
That's a shame. So how he voted on social issues.
He voted on social issues, constantly voted against laws to promote equality and human rights. This seems like a very biased source. It seems like a source that uses language in an interesting way, quite frankly. You're loading your language quite a lot here because you're suggesting these are necessarily better for like equality and human rights, which are they? Like things are not normally that simple.
Who's consistently voted against laws to promote equality and human rights.
You see what I mean? So he just reads that without any look at what these actually are and what they would affect, if you know what I mean. What actual things we're talking about. Because it's written this way, he will just look at that and instantly make a judgment. The first one was kind of seemed like he didn't want to cut fucking welfare. I don't know. That's what you're down with, is it not?
Yeah, I want to be a teacher, and my qualifications are
See what I mean? He's just judging based on the way that this source, that we don't even get to see what source it is, has written it. Wrote it for welfare benefits, at least in line with prices. Wait, hang on. To promote equality, would raising benefits not help promote equality? As in, like, people's money? You know what I mean? Bringing up the poor a little bit? What is he fucking talking about? I don't get this at all. Oh, no, it is this. Okay, I'm being stupid. Here we go. It was just confusing me. Yeah, so his source is theyworkforyou.com. And then we go to social issues. Yeah, okay, I was being dense. There we go. Show votes. And it's one thing, by the way. He voted against explicitly requiring immigration and enforcement officers to avoid using their power in a way that could endanger life at sea. I mean, can that be... I guess you could maybe say that constitutes like human rights. But we've got like one thing. They're trying to lower immigration. Ideally, yeah, they'd do what they can to not endanger life at sea, but like, what's the limit exactly? But we're not going into any detail whatsoever. We just see that as like a headline, and that's it.
Was a politician, I constantly voted against human rights. So
constantly voted against human rights. 0 votes for, 1 vote against. Can you see it? You can't fucking see it because my camera's in the way. Okay, look at this. Look at this.
Sure, and my qualifications are, when I was a politician, I constantly voted against human rights.
Okay, you've heard him say that. Now look here. 0 votes for, 1 vote against in 2021. Constantly. Yeah? Constantly? Huh.
So, yeah, can I work in your school, please? So, on environmental issues.
And then he moves on. He doesn't even see what it is. Oh my god. Oh my god. What a fucking loser. What an actual terrible fucking human being. I'd rather... I am, like, not a Tory by any means. I'm not a fan of a lot of this shit. But, like, I'd rather hire fucking Jonathan Gullis than you because you seem insanely bad faith. Like, that's crazy. This is the most vibes-based shit. Like, holy shit. How much money you take from your probably largely working class following in order to push this, where you just look at like a headline from someone who's summed something up a certain way and then not even looked at the actual thing. And it says how many votes against. Environmental issues. I mean, listen, the environment is something, again, you have to balance with your economy, with your budget and stuff like that. But he's not going to understand any of that shit. He's not going to understand, just by looking at this, what this Jonathan Gullis' like motivations were for any of these, by the way.
Consistently voted against improving biodiversity, consistently voted against improving environmental water quality, voted against greater regulation of fracking, voted against improving air quality,
Yeah, this is the thing, improving air quality. But like, how are they doing it in any case? How are they doing this? Improving air quality, how expensive it's going to be, what kind of effect it's going to have on the local area and stuff like that. There's a lot to consider with any of these. These people act like running a country is the most simple fucking thing in the world. Well, you run the fucking country then.
voted against measures to prevent climate change, against human rights, and against making air healthier to breathe. Clearly a guy who cares about children.
That's the most essentialized bullshit ever. You just read the headlines and that's all you do. And then idiots like this will agree with you, thinking that you're some kind of authority because you've got like a bunch of subscribers. Like, I don't fucking get it, man. You've got over 100,000 subscribers for this lazy ass fucking content, this bullshit analysis. And like people who try often struggle to fucking break 10K and then fucking give up. It sucks. It doesn't make sense. I would love to see actual like left-leaning like political commentators who actually make an effort and who actually try and mitigate this kind of shit and don't just use it to excuse lacking empathy for people. That's what it seems to come down to often is, I'm looking for an excuse why I can treat this particular group like shit. Where have we heard that before? Oh, that's everything you say the right fucking does. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm too... Regulation of trade union activity. Yep, he's gonna find that egregious because he does not like trade unions. Well, he will like trade unions because he's a fucking commie. Oh, and then that's all you get. So he looks at a few of these like headlines where it's like things being summed up under like larger groups of things. I was thinking that maybe this source was a bit kind of, the language is a bit dodgy here, but I guess I kind of understand it. I don't really actually have a problem with this source necessarily. It's the way he's using the source. That's the fucking problem. Jesus Christ, this guy sucks. Anyway, there you go. Kavernacle.